Hey, what's up everyone? Dragon back again with another edition of the Kaiju Cataclysm. Today I wanted to kind of just talk about a little bit of an announcement that's come up recently that Toho, Godzilla's parent company, has announced that for the first time ever they will be at San Diego Comic-Con. That is San Diego Comic-Con 2019. That's this July. And this is a bit of a milestone because they are not presenting their character there, Godzilla, through like another company, i.e. they're not there with Warner Brothers or Legendary. It is just Toho directly promoting the 65th anniversary of Godzilla here in the West. And they are going to have kind of a big mural of Godzilla. They're going to show all different iterations throughout the years, including the legendary Godzilla, further solidifying that that is an official Godzilla. It is not just an American Godzilla. That is part of the pantheon, part of the canon. And it's basically, this is an interesting term because Warner Brothers already announced they weren't going to be at Comic-Con this year, meaning they weren't going to be promoting Godzilla vs. Kong, and left a lot of people feeling bummed. But this is interesting because we've talked about previously that, starting in 2021, Toho is going to be essentially taking over the promotion and licensing of Godzilla abroad. And they've slowly kind of started to do that. Basically, Toho wants to have a presence in the West, specifically Hollywood. They don't want to just be kind of an outside company that, just partners up with Western companies and basically has them kind of, spearhead whatever production project they're working on with Godzilla. Rather, they want to basically be in charge of Godzilla, not only in their, native country, but also in the West. And this is kind of their first real step. Obviously, San Diego Comic-Con is the big unveiling gala event for, kind of nerd culture, essentially in the West. Yes, they have Comic-Cons kind of different parts of the world and different parts of the United States, but San Diego Comic-Con is the big one. It is the main event, as it were. So for them to be going here, again, it says a lot. It's a bold step forward. Now, this isn't going to be a huge, outing for them. Basically, what it's going to essentially entail is that they are going to be at booth 3535. I say it that way because it's just easier for me because I get tongue-tied with numbers. But essentially what's going to be there is they're going to have a big kind of green screen photo booth. They're going to have live mural paintings of Godzilla by the artist Shinji Nishikawa. They're going to have the suit from Godzilla 2000 there. They're going to have props from various films. The guys, from what I understand, they're also going to have some exclusive content, goodies, products, which have you, specifically for San Diego Comic-Con, which isn't unheard of for San Diego Comic-Con. They're also going to have, different giveaway stuff. So it's not going to be like a big, massive, Hall H outing for them. Granted, again, outside of kind of the MonsterVerse, again, the general public doesn't really know Godzilla as intimately as they would other kind of maybe Western properties. But what this stands to do is essentially meant to be kind of an introduction to the character for, the casual moviegoer, or maybe the casual fan, maybe the person who's seen one or two films over the years on TV, or maybe people who've just seen the legendary films. And essentially, it's going to be an opportunity for the people to kind of go up to the booth, check it out, and essentially have the average person ask questions. Hey, so I saw this Godzilla movie one time, and what was this or what was that, or how long has he been? He's been around for 65 years. Okay, how many different this or that? It's basically any kind of random question that the average person might have about Godzilla, and either A, doesn't really care enough to just go on Google and Google it, or maybe just doesn't really know where to go, where to look. This is a great place for them to kind of just approach. And this is Toho. This is the source. This is the wellspring. So this isn't conjecture. This isn't hearsay. This is where you can get definitive answers. And it might be a situation where someone maybe necessarily wouldn't have had an interesting enough of an interesting Godzilla, or one at all, to even maybe ask these questions. But they're there at San Diego Comic-Con. They're walking around. They see the booth. They see the display, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, that looks cool." And they approach and start just asking questions, taking an interest. And from there, the ball starts rolling. And I think this is Toho's kind of plan, or rather goal, with this outing. Again, it's not a massive, big turnout because, again, Godzilla, as we know, is still a niche market. I mean, Legendary's films are the biggest and most mainstream Godzilla has ever been, but based on what we've seen in the box office, that's still not as mainstream as, Marvel or other, big, tentpole properties. So for Toho to be coming there exclusively, it is a very niche market. Now you're gonna get a lot of Godzilla fans there. Once now the word is getting out that yep, Toho's gonna be there. Yep, you'll have the diehard fans showing up. To be fair, but Toho knows that, and Toho won't be surprised by that. But what Toho wants are the non-diehard fans, or even the non-fans. What they're looking to do is basically kind of, they're essentially the people, you get, when you're walking around, and I'm not gonna, out any, religious, affiliations, but you know those people who are maybe, come up to you and they're wearing white, collared shirts and black ties, and they ask if they can talk to you about something, or hey, can I give you this pamphlet and tell you a little bit about blah blah blah. That's essentially what this is going to be. This is essentially Toho kind of showing up like, hey, how you doing? Hey, if you got a minute, I'd love to talk to you about the king of all monsters, Godzilla. Have you accepted him as your one true king? That kind of it's a way for them to kind of just engage the general public. And just kind of bring the word of Godzilla to the people, essentially. And this is a great outing because, again, it's great real estate, San Diego Comic-Con, and you're going to get a lot of foot traffic, a lot of nerds from different fandoms of all different kinds. And it's a great way to kind of start branding the character here in the West. Again, Godzilla has always been known in the West. He's not some mysterious thing that no one knows nothing about. Godzilla is a household name, but like I said before, Godzilla's lore is not common knowledge. Godzilla's background, what Godzilla has represented throughout all his various incarnations and iterations, is not as well known outside of the hardcore fans. Again, people mostly just know the general, guise that is Godzilla, the look, the feel, the aesthetic, if you will. And this display they're going to have all set up is going to have a lot of too. It's going to have all the different images of the Godzillas over the years. Again, one of the suits, so it'll have what a lot of the average person knows of Godzilla, which is just the aesthetic there. And that's kind of the worm on the hook. It's the bait. It'll draw people in, and once there, people can learn more about the character, learn more about what's behind the aesthetic. What's Godzilla really about, and hopefully it'll prove to be a learning experience for people. Because again, people understand that Godzilla is more than just a giant monster. He represents so much more and has represented so many different issues, both politically, environmentally, socially over the years. Kind of whatever we needed to kind of express, communicate, talk about, have a conversation about, Godzilla has kind of represented it. Godzilla is kind of a metaphor for what, a conversation that needs to be had. Sometimes the metaphor is much darker, sometimes it's lighter, but if it's a conversation that needs to be had, Godzilla has kind of been used to have it. And this is a kind of a great way to kind of express that to the general public, the general movie-going audience, as it were. So I think this is a bold step for Toho, and I think it's a really good step for Toho. I'm glad that they are stepping out of their comfort zone, I guess, for lack of a better term, and really bringing Godzilla to the people, not just treating Godzilla as this homegrown thing that we disperse across the world, but really he's meant for our market and our market only. And if other people abroad take an interest in it, that's great, but we can take or leave that. I'm glad that they are embracing this notion of a global franchise, regardless of whether the MonsterVerse continues or not. Toho's plans to, again, bring Godzilla abroad in a big way, no pun intended, it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Quite the opposite. So what that means for the character is going to be very interesting, because again, if it's the basic theatrical experience is not really bringing in the revenue. Basically, again, at the time of this recording, I believe Godzilla's out of American theaters. I might be wrong about that. It has been given an extension in China, so Godzilla will run through July 30th through China, which should get the box office to basically what the studio was originally hoping to be, to the point where it will have made money. So the film as a whole will be okay. But like we've said before, the movie-going experience, going out to the movie theater, the cinema, is kind of a dying pastime. Again, movies are basically given a little over a month to not only break even, but to actually make the studios money, and it's just becoming too difficult for most tentpole films to really just cut it. And that's why you've seen this year record numbers of big budget films not really performing the way studios want, because it's just getting too difficult. The industry that is, you know, putting a movie in theaters is essentially just being undermined now. They're just, it's costing too much to put them in, it's costing too much to promote these movies. The movies themselves are getting costing more money to make, and then the movies are basically given next to no time in theaters to make their money back. So Godzilla on the big screen may not be the way he invades, you know, Western shores. It might be through different means. But again, we've talked about streaming media, which I think is the future, and I think that is the way Godzilla, whether it be through the MonsterVerse or just the franchise as a whole, needs to go outside of Japan. But also through different ways, you know, convention appearances, video games, you know, there's all these different forms of multimedia now that people utilize every day, more so than even going to the movies. So Toho, I think, is looking to how can we basically introduce Godzilla on a grand scale. If it's not through the traditional means, which is the movies, how else can we introduce Godzilla to a new audience? Well, what are different avenues we can kind of put him in front of people who normally would not be looking for Godzilla? And this is a good first step. It's a big convention, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people. It's a celebration of nerd culture. You know, okay, let's put Godzilla there. Let's see how he does there. Let's make it a very in your face, non-pushy kind of experience, but a situation where, like, hey, here's the setup, here's the booth, here's the presentation. Come on up, ask questions, check it out, take pictures, have a good time, and just kind of walk away from the whole experience having to say, oh, that was really cool, that was fun, and hey, I didn't know that about Godzilla, or I didn't, I learned something today. And then you're looking back at your pictures and you see yourself posing with this and that, and suddenly you find yourself, that was a lot of fun. My encounter with Godzilla was fun. Well, let me look a little bit more into Godzilla. Maybe I'll check out the movies. Let's see if someone's got the movie. Are they on Hulu? Are they on Netflix? Amazon Prime? Let's check. People are going to be more apt to check it out because I had a positive experience, and it was, again, very informal, and it just allowed people to kind of walk up and indulge their curiosity. And I think that's a good first step. And then from there, Toho can start kind of ramping it up, so to speak. They can start, okay, maybe next year, 2020, San Diego Comic-Con, they can start, having more, maybe have panels, have guests, kind of essentially do what they've been doing with G-Fest here in the West, where they've had, suit actors come, directors come, but again, that's playing towards, the fandom. The people who go to G-Fest are Godzilla and, by and large, kaiju fans, so, no surprise that, when you have a guest like a suit actor or a director, go there, that's a big deal for them. Having a suit actor at G-Fest is kind of like having, the cast of a Marvel movie at Hall H. It's a big deal. But to now kind of take that and move it over to this bigger, more mainstream convention, arguably the mainstream convention, I think is the next step. Not to say that they shouldn't stop focusing on, smaller conventions like G-Fest that really specialize in this genre, but start expanding beyond that. As in addition to doing San Diego Comic-Con, I think Toho should also hit up various other Comic-Cons too. I think that'll be a good next step too. Kind of start spreading this around. It's like a band going on tour. You're the opening act, and you want to get on tour with a bigger band, because even though people aren't all showing up for you, there's going to be a lot of people in that audience because they're all coming to see this bigger band, which means it's going to put a lot of people, in front of the stage you're on, who normally wouldn't be there, wouldn't even be going to see you. And that's kind of what this is. San Diego Comic-Con is like, the big headlining band. And Toho there is like the one of the opening bands. And it's a great way for people who maybe came there for, to see something else, but are now going to see this because they're now in the same vicinity. They're sharing the same space. So this is a good sign, and it's a good sign that shows that Toho are making changes. They're willing to embrace, this idea of globalizing Godzilla in a big way. Again, there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know the future of the MonsterVerse. We don't know if there is a future to the MonsterVerse. Again, since the last recording, Warner Brothers has announced that they would not be pushing Godzilla vs. Kong back, nor would they be doing reshoots. So it's coming out in March, which could very well mean that, okay, reshoots and this and that and push dates back implies that the studio is really trying to, get as much as they can out of this film. But if Legendary and or Toho are not going to basically be renewing their contract with Warner Brothers, to them it might just look like, okay, well, there's no point in us trying to make something out of this when it's not going to be ours after this movie. So go ahead and put it out and it'll do what it'll do. So that could be that sign, or it could be maybe some of the fan backlash that was coming out from them saying, yeah, we don't want you to reshoot it. We don't want you messing with it. Just let the film be what it is. Or it could be they just decided after the fact that, yeah, on second thought, the film looks fine. Let's just go with it. So we don't know what's going on with that, but we do know that, again, Godzilla is not stopping. This franchise is not slowing down. Toho is ramping up, and now Toho is going to be kind of helming the ship. They are now captain of Godzilla in every iteration. So any future collaborations with Western production companies, whether again it's Legendary or another production company, Toho is going to be a part of the production now. So these will no longer be like, okay, films that are licensed out by Toho, produced by, they will be Toho produced films in addition with whatever company they're working with. And again, on top of whatever they're going to be producing solely themselves. So there's a lot of Godzilla that is coming in the future, and but the interesting is we don't really know what it's going to look like, what form it's going to take. So it's kind of this big unknown, but again, it's an unknown in the sense, like I just said, we don't know what it's going to look like, but it's big in the sense that there's a lot of it coming. And that's so it's exciting, it's intriguing, and again, the fact that they're stepping out and kind of they're one of their first really big, bold, like solo ventures in terms of promoting Godzilla abroad is San Diego Comic-Con. Again, previously this year we saw the Godzilla pop-up stores that spread up in a few cities, and I see that's what Toho's doing. They're testing the market, they're testing the waters, they're sprinkling Godzilla a little bit, and they're moving. This is like the next step. This is the next big move, and I think Toho is basically going to be kind of every move they make is going to be bigger than the last. So they went from the pop-up stores to now they have a booth at San Diego Comic-Con. The next thing is anybody's guess. I think it could be a film. Again, Japan, when they start production of films, it's not like it is here in the West where about a film in production, long before it even gets out of pre-production. Over there, a lot of times you don't really realize something's happening for sure until it's kind of already happening, basically. So I have no doubt that if they are indeed, planning their own films separate from any Western production company, these films are probably well in pre-production. They're probably going to wait till their contract with Warner Brothers is officially up before they start showing, releasing, or even really talking about anything concrete in terms of those productions. But mark my words, pre-production has already begun. There's probably already a script floating around. There's probably, concept art. Again, they're going to keep this stuff quiet for now because at the same time, they also don't want to detract from Godzilla King of the Monsters or Godzilla vs. Kong. They wanted to let those films that depict their character kind of shine first because those are the films that are completed and they're going to be out now. And once those films are kind of run their course, that's when to keep the train going, to keep whatever interest or hype that these films have generated going, Toho's going to come out and say, okay, and on top of that, we also have been working on this. We have this coming out. We have Godzilla going to be at this event. And they also might just announce the MonsterVerse is going to continue. Either on the big screen, either in streaming media, maybe a combination of the two. We don't know. But the point is, there will be more news to come. That this is Toho just getting started. We are probably entering what will go down in history as the most ambitious era of Toho in terms of their use of Godzilla. They are, again, Godzilla's always been known here. Godzilla's always been, they've gotten Western releases. But this is going to be the first time where Toho is pushing for Godzilla to be mainstream. They want everyone and anyone to know about Godzilla the way they would know about anything else. And again, they've already played around with streaming media themselves. The Godzilla animated trilogy, which, say what you will about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. Dare I say, it's probably more the latter. But regardless, they put that on Netflix, so they've already utilized streaming media for films that in their country came out in theaters. In the West, they put it on this platform because in Japan, Streaming media is still not as big as it is abroad. They still are very much a theater-going culture. They still have video stores there where you can rent Blu-rays. That it's streaming media hasn't really caught on as big over there, and it's big part of that is also because they're a smaller country. Their population is smaller, so everything is more compact. Everything is more streamlined. So they don't, there's not this need for diversifying, how people get their entertainment as much as it is in the West, for instance. So, but they've still already have experimented with it. They've already started playing around with that. And I know they have been pushing, Netflix Japan has been really pushing to kind of make this more of a staple of entertainment over there. So Toho is no stranger to streaming media, and something tells me that, their own films, while released perhaps in theaters over there, will probably more likely, like the Godzilla animated trilogy, be released via streaming media. I mean, they might do a limited release thing like they do with Shin, and while as a limited release, Shin did very well. It made money, but you could honestly save, the money you would use to kind of, do a limited theatrical run, and just put that into, again, the streaming, and you'll save a lot more money, and you'll reach a lot more people that way. As good as Shin did in theaters, Shin, I think, would have reached a lot more people. They would have just put it on, again, on Netflix or Amazon Video. And I think going forward, that's more than likely what they're going to do. Again, I don't know. I don't have the inside track. I'm not on the phone with Toho, wheeling and dealing, as much as I would love to. I mean, I'm available. So, but this is me just kind of as an observer, just kind of looking at what's going on, looking at the market, or not the market, but the market too, but looking at the industry and kind of the direction it's moving in, and based on that, kind of discerning that this is probably the logical way to go, and more than likely kind of what's going to happen, and to kind of really start pushing that, you're going to see Toho making more appearances in the West, promoting Godzilla more on the ground, not just promoting to the fan base or the niche market, but kind of just really bringing Godzilla to the masses. So again, going to conventions like San Diego Comic-Con, we're going to see more of that. This will more likely not be Toho's last visit to San Diego. I think they will be doing this probably every year now. Not just with whatever production company they're collaborating with, but now they're going to be coming like Toho. It'll be like a Toho Presents, either booth or panel. It won't be just like, hey, it's a studio that licensed out their character and they're putting on the show. It's going to be like, no, if there's a Godzilla movie that's being discussed at Comic-Con, it's going to be Toho presenting the event. And even if they do a collaboration with whatever other company, their name is still going to be up there, and that's the big thing. They want to put their name up in lights in the West, and this is kind of how they're starting, and they're doing it very smart. They're not overstepping, they're not overestimating themselves. They understand that while in Japan they are as big as it gets, they realize that in the West, in America, in the UK, they don't have nearly the same kind of clout as they do in their home country. So they're being very humble about it. They're being very realistic about it, and they're presenting themselves in a very kind of down to earth way, but in a way that's gonna be a lot of fun. Again, it's not gonna feel like this big invasive thing. It's gonna be this cool setup where people will recognize it's Godzilla, so they'll see the imagery, the iconography, like, oh, it's Godzilla, it's cool, let's go take a look. And it'll be kind of this welcoming thing of, hey, this is what we're Toho. Godzilla is our pride and joy. Welcome. Come on in. We're opening our doors to you. Come sit down. Ask us any questions you like, and just experience this legacy, this film legacy. And again, I think it'd be a great way to kind of just get people enamored with the character. And I almost kind of wish they would have done this the year before, but I think that might have even helped Godzilla Godzilla King of the Monsters. But I think based on the contract they had signed with Warner Brothers, they might not have been allowed to. Again, I don't know all the ins and outs about that, just kind of what I've heard here and there. But yes, this is a good start, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the reaction is going to be. I mean, unfortunately, we won't be able to go there. We would love to go, but we're actually moving at the end of July. So some videos soon, you're going to see some more sparse backgrounds. We're in the process of moving. But, you know, again, this is a good first step for Toho. It's not really their first step, but this is their first kind of big step where they're doing it kind of on their own. They're not there with Warner Brothers. They're not there with Legendary. They are there. They are Toho. We are Toho Studios. This is what we're about, and this is our boy. This is our guy. You know, this is, you know, we're on his team, and we'd like you to join his team too. So yeah, so that's really it. This is kind of a short Kaiju Cataclysm. Again, I kind of wanted just to mainly talk about the announcement, talk about them, you know, being at San Diego Comic-Con, and kind of just touch upon what I feel is the significance of that, because it is significant. Again, this is kind of a big deal. Comic-Con has become such a huge stage for, you know, studios to really pimp out, you know, their big licensed products. You know, it's a big deal. It is a big deal, and yes, I know that this isn't going to be the show stealer of San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, it would be for me, but I get the average person is not going there for this booth that's going to have some cool Godzilla stuff, you know. So, but this is how it starts. This is how you get that ball rolling, and you have to start somewhere, and that's what they're doing. They're starting, and I'm looking forward to that, because now it means we have something to look forward to every year. And they're only, like I said, they're only going to be ramping it up every year. It's not going to diminish. It's only going to get bigger. So I'd be curious to see what the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, you know, what this is going to turn into, you know, as in terms of just a franchise as a whole. And in 10 years from now, I'm very curious to see where Godzilla's at and just how much of a conversation he is in terms of just the public consciousness of everyone everywhere. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Again, not a big, long Kaiju Cataclysm, which is probably a nice break for you guys, because the past few have been very full in terms of content. So I figured this one kind of make it short and sweet. So with that said, that is going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And the next one of these we do, we'll probably have Ashley back on this one, because we're going to probably talk more about Godzilla versus Kong and kind of dive into more like narrative speculation and what we think may or may not be going on. And who knows, by that point, a trailer may have even dropped. We don't know. But regardless, it'll be the two of us the next go around. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace!